The Joker is probably one of the most beloved and well-recognized characters in fiction. We've seen countless incarnations of this villain, both iconic and hated. There's been thousands of comics issued with him and stories that are still being discussed today, and the presence of the Clown Prince of Crime in pop culture can be felt almost 85 years later. On the surface level, he's a character with mischievous intentions and a borderline hatred for the society. However, like an iceberg, the further we deconstruct and explore the man behind the makeup, the more his relevance becomes apparent. Revealing a tortured past cursed with nothing but torment and suffering. A cautionary tale of how one bad day can morph a man with the purest of hearts and greatest of intentions into a demon who wants nothing but to watch the world burn and dance in its ashes. The Joker's story can begin in a lot of different places depending on what source material we're looking into. Some stories are incredibly depthful with their context and commentary into how someone could become this psychotic and unhinged, while others are shrouded in mystery, making the villain more menacing and intriguing. However, what most stories have in common is this one bad day the character experiences. Every Joker story begins with a man on the brink of insanity just begging to grasp onto any semblance of sanity, any reason to keep going in a world that just wants to bring him to his knees. Trapped in this nightmare with no loved ones, no purpose, and hardly any levity in this cruel city of crime and chaos. The most popular Joker origin story is one that depicts a very real and depressing reality for the character. In this story, we follow a man who works a job he hates under the hopes of achieving his dream at stand-up comedy, a dream which is almost impossible to realize due to his mental condition, which causes him to burst out laughing as a result of extreme stress or anxiety. In this story, we see this Arthur Fleck deal with this feeling of impending doom luring its head around every alley. Every interaction comes with the fear of humiliation, assault, and undeniable misery and manipulation. Bullied and beaten by friends, assaulted by family, and bruised by a society who promised him so much as a clown who would spread joy and laughter. As the story goes on, Arthur's journey only becomes more tragic as the origins of his condition is revealed to be caused by none other than his very mother who brought him into this world. The mother who gave him the motivation to pursue a life of optimism and positivity. What I find interesting about all of the Joker origins is the character always keeps pursuing a path of peace. None of the incarnations show any sliver of sadistic intention, but society systematically beats the optimism out of these characters until there is nothing left. Absolutely no empathy for the people who destroyed them, no emotion towards the countless lives that caused nothing but pain and trauma, towards a fractured man who tried so very hard to endure. What makes this character so fascinating and complex is we never truly know what motivated the spiral into villainy. For example, when Arthur learns of his abuse, we only see a fraction of what he sees and experienced, making the following events much more disturbing and tragic due to the ambiguous nature of this character. We also can't continue without mentioning his attire. The most tragic part of this character for me is the Joker persona is always grafted onto Arthur or Jack White's skin, in some cases forced, with Jack White falling into a vat of acid and being disfigured. However, other incarnations such as Arthur Fleck wear the makeup as a rebellion against the society, taking the role of a jester of genocide after losing every shred of purpose to continue moving as Arthur. At the end of the origin, we see the birth of a monster, the turning point of this character, and the end of this very, very bad day. In every story, we see this event that transforms and ultimately snaps his psyche, creating the Clown Prince of Crime. In the Joker movie, after seeing his medical records and breaking down in the hospital, he goes on a complete and total killing spree, as he returns to the hospital and smothers his mother, dons the makeup and kills his work colleague Randall, and finally kills Murray Franklin, the man who was Arthur's white light in this city of darkness, mocked and humiliated by his idol and ultimately made an example of by a man who simply has nothing left to lose.
Get what you fucking deserve!
What makes this origin so powerful is the relatability of all of this. Now, I sincerely hope no one has had a day like this or endured anywhere near this level of suffering, but by the sheer variety and complexity of Arthur's torment, we're able to relate to an area of this character and empathize with how someone could be consumed by this path of evil. The Joker isn't objectifying or even glamorizing the idea of emotional torture like many thought and still think. It's simply giving us this perspective into a man who could become this monster. Which is important because what makes the Joker such a powerful study is his arch nemesis who represents the complete opposite ideologies.
I'm vengeance.
Now, you can't really talk about the Joker without mentioning Batman, because these characters are integral, they're codependent, they're quite literally two sides of the same coin. Batman's journey begins almost exactly the same as an Arthur Fleck or Jack White. However, the difference here is we're shown someone who reacts differently to this very bad day. Batman's trauma, purpose, and ultimate self-destruction comes from the death of his parents, murdered in cold blood down a dark alley by a man who simply wanted money. Now, there's a lot of twists and variations on this narrative in pop culture, with my least favourite one being the robber was actually the Joker, which is just really stupid. However, what I enjoy the most about this is what this trauma does to Bruce Wayne. After his parents are murdered, Bruce has a complete and utter block of depression and emptiness. Any goals, ambitions, or even the will to live a regular life has been completely and utterly shattered by this one moment, this event. However, instead of taking this trauma out on the city, he instead takes it out on himself. He pushes his body and intellect to the absolute limit, becoming completely self-destructive in this pursuit of self-improvement. What makes this so fascinating to me is we're shown two entirely different perspectives on how people process trauma like this and what they decide to do with it. Some take it out on the world and punish everyone, guilty or not, in a lifetime of vengeance and hatred, while others punish themselves to ensure no one ever has to endure that kind of pain in a sacrifice that systematically destroys their lives. The dynamic and juxtaposition of these characters is easily my favourite thing in the superhero genre, although the best thing about this dynamic is how it creates this rivalry that's so endlessly fascinating. It's almost like a bizarre love story in a sense, because the Joker is just so endlessly fascinated with why and how someone could wear the cowl and become a vigilante. The curiosity stems from a potential fantasy of knowing the Batman most definitely suffered a traumatic experience which led to his fate, the same way a Jack White or Arthur Fleck led to the Joker. This fascination and admiration slowly stems into a desperate obsession of showing Batman why he turned to the dark side. Why someone so innocent and vulnerable would turn to this life of darkness. Because the Joker relates to Batman, he understands what a traumatic event looks like and what it can do to someone and break them from the inside. However, from the perspective of Batman, he sees himself as a savior, a beacon of solitude and order that saves Gotham from the broken and psychotic. Completely ignorant to how much suffering and torment he's subjecting himself to through his own selflessness. My favourite story with the Joker is one that involves nothing but complete and utter suffering. It's a story where we see a headstrong Jason Todd actively pursue the Joker in execution. Justice for all of the victims, families, and lives he's destroyed. Which leads us to his eventual capture where he is imprisoned in a dungeon of darkness, tormented by a demon who is ready to unleash his pain on the most undeserving of victims. For 2 years, Jason is tortured and beaten by the Joker in extremely graphic and disturbing ways. What makes this story so powerful and unexpected for me is we're presented with a man who delightfully indulges in the most extreme acts of violence, manically laughing as he beats Jason to an absolute and bloodied pulp. There's not even a shred of empathy, care, or remorse towards Jason Todd, because why would there be? In this story, we're presented with someone so undeniably evil and heinous in his pursuit of violence. There's no act of torture he won't inflict, no suffering too great to act out on the Boy of Wonder. However, at the end of the story, we're shown what Joker's true intentions really were. After spending so very long to show Batman true suffering and push him over the edge, he sees Jason as an opportunity to finally make Bruce feel true pain. The bloodied corpse of a son who felt nothing but fear and depravity for 2 whole years. The death of a family. What makes this such an interesting and complex character is he's on the surface level such a likable and entertaining antagonist. He's funny, quirky, extremely entertaining, and played by so many phenomenal actors and written by so many talented artists. However, all this facade really distracts us from how psychotic, twisted, and manipulative he is both to the universe and us, the viewers. There's so many moments where he makes us laugh, however also makes us feel intense resentment and hatred on the very next page. So many moments where we feel like a Harley Quinn being meticulously manipulated and deceived to what this character is truly capable of. The reason the Joker is the greatest villain of all time is because his story is so undeniably tragic. Betrayed by everyone he loved, denied the one and only thing that gave him purpose, and constantly bullied and emasculated by the society who rejected him. This character didn't want to become the Clown Prince of Crime, he didn't want to wear the makeup. He wanted to be a contributing member of the city, however the city quite literally said no and put him in the makeup. The chemicals that would define a much more sinister lifestyle. He taps into this idea of what would happen if you just one day said no, stood up against the bullies and delivered vengeance through the means of selfish intentions. And when we finally see that snap, we're presented with a monster that is a complete physical manifestation of pain and trauma, ready to unleash it on anyone who crosses his path, guilty or innocent, evil or heroic. However, one thing will always remain true, no matter how many people he kills, how many victims he torments, or how many cities he leaves in complete rubble. The man behind the makeup is long gone. There's no potential redemption, no hope for Jack White. All that lies ahead is endless destruction and chaos, with no end in sight and absolutely no resolution to be found. Because he is the jester of genocide, and too far gone to be saved. Hey, glad you watched the whole video, man, I really appreciate it. Just to let you guys know, I'm going to be doing a £50 or $50 giveaway for both Christmas Eve and New Year's. If you want to be entered into the giveaway, all you have to do is leave a like, comment what your favourite Batman game is and why, and finally subscribe. And hopefully I'll see you next week if everything's running fine and dandy. Take care guys, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.